Well, that's just a small sample size of the chaos in Spain right now after some 55,000 illegals from Morocco breached the Spanish enclave of Ceuta. Now, to stop this from happening again, Spain is installing a containment barrier, and it's going to be over a quarter-mile long and go into the sea to block anyone from entering the area. So for more, we'll welcome in Turning Point USA contributor and Naval Intel Officer Jack Posobiec, editor-in-chief of the National Memo, Joe Conason, as well as our special guests, Taylor Hathorn and Stefano Forte. Good morning, everybody. So Speaker Johnson calling this moment, quote, Marxism in practice. So, Jack, I'll start with you. Are you worried about massive illegal migrations like this happening?
Well, absolutely. And massive illegal migrations like this are the largest possible threat to Western countries. This is something that we've seen the leftists do in the UK. We've seen them do this, of course, across Europe under Angela Merkel. And of course, we saw it in the United States under Joe Biden, where we had the Biden wave of migrants, where things like this were happening every single day on the Rio Grande and all over the southern border. Thank God we have President Trump back to stop this. But this is actually a form of hybrid warfare. It's a form of warfare against their own countries because you're destabilizing countries, you're destabilizing populations. And by the way, there's no idea who is coming in these waves, especially when we're at a time where Spain has been involved in many political disputes. We know that there's turmoil in the Strait of Hormuz. Now we've got the Strait of Gibraltar. And at the end of the day, demographics are destiny. These large inflows of young males, high fertility, into these low birth rate societies are creating really, really long-term problems.
Yeah, President Trump calling this a catastrophe in this historical moment. It's something that he says, to Jack's point, could also happen here.
You know, I saw Spain yesterday, and I watched the catastrophe that took place. It looks like an invasion of a country by hundreds of thousands of people. And that same thing's going to happen to us if the Republicans don't get elected, except worse, much bigger, much easier to get into.
Joe, when you see this, what do you make of it and the threat that it could also lead to here in America?
Well, first, I'd recommend that you zoom back out on the map and you would see that Ceuta, where this incident occurred, is actually in Africa. It's not in Europe. And that's why this happened. It's happened before. And each time, the Spanish government has expelled the migrants who were coming over illegally. Yesterday, they all went back. You've left that out of the story. 90% of them went back into Morocco. So, this is a distraction from a failing government, a failing economy, a failing war, a very bad cabinet meeting that the president had where he gave a long, droning speech about how much he pities himself. It's ridiculous. His poll numbers are in the toilet. And this is what he wants to talk about. But I don't think it's going to fool anybody. It has nothing to do with anything that's going on here.
Well, I mean, Taylor, once the president got back into office, his first agenda was fixing America's southern border. I mean, is it easy to forget that people were just walking into the U.S., similar to what's happening or what happened in Spain? I mean, is this a reminder of why we need constant protection at borders?
Well, if we went for Joe's perspective, then we would say that Mexico was, part of the United States, too, and vice versa, because I guess borders don't really matter. And I guess Spain doesn't get to have sovereignty over their own nation. So
look at the map.
That's one point. But the next point is that, this is a major problem. I don't understand why we think because we live in the era of TikTok and X that borders and invasions don't happen. This stuff still happens. We are not immune from history. And I think that people, like some of my co-panelists, need to understand that we're not immune to this. They know what they're doing. These people know what they're doing.
Hey, Jack, I would love your response to Joe's comment there about this is kind of, much ado about nothing.
Well, also, it's important to note 57 people died. I mean, this was a stampede, a rush. I mean, you have people dying as well. I mean, kids that are now been left there without parents.
It's not a distraction. So, Jack, your response to that?
Well,
Participant
first and
distraction.
foremost, you should also look at the history. This has been part of Spain for hundreds and hundreds of years, even before Columbus sailed to the United States, far longer than the government of Morocco has been in power, or the regime there has been in power. So obviously, it's just a complete misunderstanding of history and who built Ceuta and how long it's been part of the Spanish nation. And then also, it's an understanding of the potential threats. Donald Trump's campaign, his entire political history started with talking about borders and on the southern border. So it's not a distraction. It's actually been the central pillar of his entire political career.
Yeah, you have Vice President J.D. Vance also weighing in. He's saying that, quote, these images out of Spain are an unfortunate reminder of the consequences of mass migration and the radical left-wing globalist policies that have enabled the invasion of the West. Stefano, I mean, does he make a point there?
Of course he makes a point. And something that I really want to add here is that the Prime Minister of Spain, when he was talking about this, he said, we are going to use every measure of the state to guarantee security and coexistence. What exactly does coexistence mean? This is the same person that essentially legalized 500,000 migrants in Spain. He doesn't believe that Spain is a country in itself with a distinct people. This is not a distraction. This is an invasion, and we need to treat it as such. And if the Democrats get back in power in November, if they flip the House and the Senate, we are going to be seeing migrant caravans like we saw during the Biden administration. And let's be clear, you can laugh about it, but that's the truth. That's the truth.
It's hilarious.
It's
let's
not
talk about the
hilarious
real.
at all. And let me,
you don't want to talk about the real
it's,
issues.
Hold on, wait a minute. How mass migration is not a real issue, that is a distraction. This is one of the most important issues of our time. That is what won President Donald J. Trump the election in 2024. And you could keep being smug about it, but the Republicans are going to keep winning on the issue.
He tried the same thing in 2020. That was when they did the migrant caravan, propaganda story, and that didn't work out for him. He lost that election.
I don't think the families,
whether you'd like to
the
admit it
Angel
or not.
families whose kids and children were killed by mass migrants feel like this isn't an issue. This is a major issue for women and children in America. It's a major issue for all Americans.
Crime is a big issue across the country, much less of it committed by migrants.
And guess what? We imported that
Americans.
crime.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. You had a much bigger crime rate among Native Americans than among migrants, and you know that.
Great argument.
So,
As always, we could do an entire show around this, but we do have to leave it there, everybody. Jack Posobiec, Joe Conason, thank you both for joining us. Or actually, Taylor and Stefano, we'll see you back here at the desk shortly. Thank you.